Hey, this is Kim McLaughlin, and welcome to the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. This is a special edition of the podcast. It is what we called Food Freedom Live, and it was a 3-day event, and it was recorded on Facebook Live. These 3 days were extraordinary. We had a lot of conversations about various topics. Today's topic is on the dieting mindset. You got to listen to this. We're talking about where the dieting mindset comes from, who funds that dieting mindset, and some ideas about what you can do about it. Have a listen to this podcast. It's super critical. Leave me some reviews and let me know what you think and let me know what your takeaways are. Thanks a lot, everybody. Bye.
I am so glad to be with you. I am Kim McLaughlin. We are here at Food Freedom Live. We're going to do this over 3 days. So Tuesday, so the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th, we're going to come live at 12 o'clock Pacific to talk about some different things having to do with food and getting food freedom. And I'm super glad to be here. As you can tell, I haven't done a Facebook Live in a very long time. So this is super good. Usually I do these on Zoom, but I wanted to really come and get everybody in a live format. So here we are. Food Freedom Live. What is this? This is where we're going to start talking about how to have freedom with food and how to be and feel more empowered around food and feel more peaceful with food. And that's what I'm all about. If you want to get more information, you can always go to feedyoursoulunlimited.com, and that's where I have my blog. I've got a podcast, Feed Your Soul with Kim. Lots of things going on where you can learn more, and actually at the end of this video, we'll talk about some ways that you can get more help because, you know, overeating and dieting has been a lifelong struggle for people. So we can't really think that over 3 days, a half hour each day, that we're going to have total food freedom. But this is the part that gets you going in the right direction to have more food freedom. So I'm looking forward to talking with you more about it. Today, we're going to talk about the diet mindset. And tomorrow we're going to talk about emotions in eating. And on Thursday, we're going to talk about my top component that I use to help with food and to have food freedom. So please watch all 3 videos. I'll have the link below if you're watching and you haven't signed up to get all the information. I can send, if you I'll put the link in the notes, and then you can go in and sign up and get the all the logins and all the particulars you might need about what's going on. So when I talk about food freedom, I think the first thing I thought of when I thought about having freedom with food is about diets and the diet mindset. So I actually looked here. I've got it right in front of me. Today I just looked up what the dieting business. You know, dieting is a business. And when I think about dieting and how it's affected me during my life and how it's affected my clients, what helps is when I start putting it in context of what is. First, we're going to go into like what is a diet. We'll talk about that today so you get kind of clear, because it's become kind of fuzzy over the years as far as I'm concerned. It's been a little fuzzy. And there's also the business. So the business of dieting, I've got it right here in front of me. It says dieting, and I just looked it up on Google. The global market for weight loss will grow from 254.9 billion with the B, 254.9 billion in 2021. It will grow from that number to 377.3 billion with the B by 2026. That is a huge industry. So when we talk about dieting, I'm going to talk more about that idea of how we've really embraced the idea of dieting. And I want you to really consider you've been sold to. You've been sold to by this $254.9 billion industry that wants you to buy. And when I think of an industry that's actually growing, It's growing industry. By 2026, it'll be 377.3 billion with a B. That means it's not working. Guys, it's not working. So what I want to do is talk about what does work, what's a different way to look at our bodies, what's a different way to look at food, because if we just go with the same old, we're going to get the same old result, which means dieting, then not dieting, and binging, and this kind of circle that we go in. So why I thought about doing this Food Freedom Live right now is because we're in the start of the new year. And when I think about it, there are really two times of the year where we're sold to in such a large way. We're sold to about diets, and that is at the first of the year and at they call it swimsuit season, quote unquote swimsuit season. So at the first of the year, we're sold about diets because we've what we're told is that we've eaten too much, we've gotten too fat over the holidays, and we need to restrict and we need to diet. And that I noticed the ads for weight loss were hot and heavy over Christmas. December, there was absolutely a start of these kind of ads that are selling to you this idea of a diet. And remember, they're selling to you so that you buy it. And they're doing it because it works. No, let me tell you. They're doing it because the selling of it works. The actual diet process doesn't work, but the selling to you works really well. And then what will happen in a couple of months is we'll get sold into bikini season, and we'll get sold into kind of you have to restrict, you have to diet in order to be bikini ready, to wear the shorts or the tank tops, because obviously we can't wear a bikini or shorts and a tank top if we aren't a certain size. And that is another area that I think is really, really mistaken for us to buy into, because we're sold that our bodies don't look good and that we have to be really thin in order to wear certain clothes, when that isn't it isn't true. And also what this whole industry does is sell to us the idea that we can't be happy at the size that we're at, and we can't be joyous. I think about the whole the process of advertisements, and you'll see, who are the happy people, the thin people, the people who've dieted. Who are the sad, the frustrated, lonely people? Are the people that are overweight or over whatever weight is determined to be overweight, because really whatever is determined to be overweight, quote unquote, at this point in time is actually what's normal and what most people look like. So we're sold this idea of being something that we have to be. In order to be happy, we have to be thin. And if we're not thin, we're not happy. And I'm here to say that that's just not true, and that you deserve to be happy in the body that you have, and deserve to love the body that you have, because there's nothing wrong with it. And when we look at dieting, we're told that we're just not okay, and you guys, we've bought into it. And when we look at the dieting mindset, how do we know? Like, how do you know? I found this is fascinating. Is how do we know anymore when we're being sold to? Because it's become a um, a process of selling to us, and now it's using kind of these other words have been co-opted. It used to be about losing weight, lower calories, fat free, all those kind of things, and now it's healthy lifestyle. I find is fascinating. Or I need to have a healthy body, and the kind of idea that's put to that is that you don't have a healthy body if you have a body that is considered overweight or considered fat. And that's not what I talk about with my clients, is that that's not the measure of health. Your size is not the measure of health. Your cholesterol, where your cholesterol is, your heart rate, your lung capacity, um, how your body works. That's a level of health. Um, you might be low in hormones. Like that's health. Weight is just your body. And so I want to also have you think about distinguishing about, have you been sold to that your body is not healthy when everything about my body is super duper healthy. I have a size that is the size that I am, but I'm literally very, very healthy. You can't find much wrong with me. But if we start looking at my size or my weight, there might be, some industry that says that I lack health when I I know that that's just not true. So just think about how you're being sold to. What are the words that are being said, and what are the ideas that are being said that are leading you to think that you're not in health? And think about what the markers are that really do show whether you're healthy or not healthy. So let's talk about the diet mindset. How would you know, or what do you how would you know if you're in that diet mindset? Because I think once again we get sold to so much that we don't even know that, one, we're being sold to, and two, we're being told that we have uh, um, an unhealthy body and that we're engaging in this diet mindset. So the first thing I think of is that the idea of the diet mindset is that we have to be a certain size, and that it's interesting. I don't know if you all have had this, um, but have you ever been had this idea of a number in your head? I used to have an idea of a number in my head that I was supposed to be in order to be healthy. That if my body was at this number on this scale, that then I was healthy. And what was interesting to me is that I never was at that number except at one point in my life when I was very, very young. And I was never able to be at that size again. And I really had it in my head that in order to be healthy, in order to be attractive, in order to be desirable, I had to have that number on the scale. And I think you all can imagine that, if you have this idea that you have to be at this certain number, if you don't reach it, then what's the translation to me? Before it used to be, I'm not healthy, I'm not attractive, nobody's going to want to be with me, I can't wear a bathing suit. All of those kind of things were in my head when that wasn't true. That was really part of a dieting mindset. So part of the dieting mindset is I have to be at a certain size. Um, and that's part of that diet culture. Another is that the dieting mindset is that our society kind of prescribes what our body's supposed to look like. And this I find interesting. Again, there was, 100 years ago, um, being heavy, or even more than 100, being heavy was desired because it showed you had plenty of food. So you had plenty of food and your body was larger, which meant, oh, you don't have to work in the field, you don't have to work outside because your body is this larger size. And then we had these things coming up about being really thin, about being really thin. And I don't know about you, but my body is never going to be like straight and thin. But there was a time in our culture that was the aspiration was to be like that, when not many people can be that size, but it was a societal norm. And then became the being really curvy, like having a small waist and large hips and a large booty. And my body doesn't really look like that. I'm short and I'm not curvy round like that. I look different than that. So there are these societal norms that we think we're supposed to look like. That goes along with that, having that bikini ready body. It's like, well, mine never looked like that. Mine just looked like mine, and I wear a bathing suit because I want to swim. And that is a societal norm that also engages in that dieting mindset. The other thing that is part of a diet mindset is that whole idea of being number driven. I talked about that just a little earlier for myself, about having this number on the scale that we think we're supposed to um, have, and that if we don't feel attractive, and we don't feel like we're okay, right? We're not good enough. We're not good enough. So think about that. I'm not good enough unless this number on the scale, I have this number on the scale. Who I am is not good enough unless I have a certain number on the scale. That to me sounds really strange when I really think about it. And that's something that I talk a lot with my clients about. So literally who you are and your value on this earth is prescribed by the number on the scale. Think about that. And that means that me being a mother and all the good things I do as a mother, all the good things I do as a wife and a friend and a person and a volunteer and a business owner, all those things are negated. All those good things, who I am and what I do, are negated by the size of my body. And that's what happens when we really engage in that dieting mindset, is that we forget who we really are and how fabulous we are because of that number on the scale. So I'm pointing these things out. Some of these might fit for you and some of these might not fit for you. But I want to point them out because I want to today challenge you. Have you challenged yourself about, wait a second, what is that diet? Do I have that dieting mindset? Is that part of who I am? And really start challenging, does that really fit for me? Is that really what I want to think about myself? Because um, I'm here to tell you it's not true. The number on the scale is not who you are. The other thing I think of about diets, with aside from the dieting mindset, is like, how do you know if you're on a diet? Because they've been so, once again, co-opted, and calling them, diets are often called healthy lifestyle, healthy living, healthy eating, clean eating, are all kind of code words, I think, for diet. But I want you to consider, are you on a diet? Have you been on a diet? What would you call a diet? And I will not tell you certain uh, places if they're a diet or not. You have to decide this for you. You have to decide. And one of the ways to know, is it a diet, I think, is by noticing if it comes from a place, are you eating from a place of deprivation? Deprivation meaning there are forbidden foods. There are foods I can't have, foods I can't keep in the house because they're dangerous. I'll eat them. I remember I used to, oh my God, a long time ago, I used to have my boyfriend that I was living with at the time, hide the cookies so I couldn't have them. And it's like, hide the cookies because they're for my forbidden foods and you can have them, because he wanted them in the house, but I couldn't have them around because I couldn't control myself. That's literally how I felt. I couldn't control myself around those foods, so I needed them either gone or he had to hide them. Problem was, is I could hear him getting into them, so I knew where they were based on, the sound of the cabinet and the thing that was being opened. Is like, I know where they are, and that made it really difficult because um, I didn't think I was allowed to have those foods. So are you focused on deprivation with your food? Is it from a place of, I can't have these things. I can't have these things in the house because I can't be trusted around these foods. And what I want to say about that is that when you have food freedom, you can have those foods or not have those foods in the house as you see fit. But if you don't have them in the house, it's because you don't want them. If you have them in the house, it's like, it's just not a big deal. And that to me is a huge win with food freedom, is that I can have food in the house. I have all those things, all those kind of forbidden foods, I guess, what some people might not want to have in the house because they're dangerous, but I have them in the house and it's just no big deal. When I had my breakfast this morning, I didn't think about them. When I have them for lunch, they're not something I'm going to eat because I've made peace with food. And when you make peace with food, you can have these foods in the house because my daughter likes them, my husband likes them, heck, I like them. But I don't feel challenged that I'm going to eat them all day long. And I remember that feeling. I remember that feeling of I can't be trusted around food. I can't be trusted. And dieting for me back then was about deprivation and hiding those foods because I couldn't have them around. Another thing that I think of is will show whether it's a diet or not is whether you focus on what you're going to eat all day long. I remember I've been on diet plans, many diet plans, and I remember there was one that like I would plan out what I wanted to eat on Saturday. So today on Tuesday, since I knew I was going to eat more because we were going to a party or whatever, I'd want to eat more on Saturday. So I'd eat less today so that I could eat more on Saturday. Well, that meant I was hungry today and couldn't have what my body needed today because what I was going to eat on Saturday. And also, how in the heck would I know what I'm going to eat on Saturday? I don't know what I'm going to want on Saturday. And it was this interesting thing of focusing on food. So I had to figure out what I'm going to eat because I want to be prepared for later on. I do that somewhat in terms of the only time I do that is like, if I know we're going to go out tonight, I won't eat a larger lunch. So, because I don't want to go out to a restaurant and be full. I mean, that just kind of doesn't make sense. So there's a way to kind of eat in a way that notices what your plans are for later in the day, but it's not from a place of deprivation. We're not depriving ourselves. And so when you're not depriving yourself, you don't think about food all day long. It's like, oh, you do this internal check. What I talk with you all, and we'll talk more about as this week goes on, is the idea of intuitive eating and how we get back in touch with our body to know what our body needs and what our body wants and what our body is craving. And I got to tell you, it's not sugar all the time and it's not carbs all the time. People will tell me like, well, Kim, if I intuitively eat, I'm going to eat sugar all day. I was like, I go, no, you're not. You're not going to want it. If you literally are in touch with your body, you're going to eat what your body wants. And yes, sometimes we eat for emotional reasons and we eat what we call fun foods, but it won't be every day, every meal because it doesn't feel good to eat like that. Just like it doesn't feel good to eat. I mean, I'm not going to eat salad all day, every day. Like, I need some protein, I need some carbs, I need some other kinds of fat in my diet. So I'm not going to even eat that way all the time because that's, to me, is deprivation also because it's not kind of, a variety of different kinds of food. The last thing I want to say about whether it's a diet or not is whether it's good food versus bad food. We only eat good food, and good food would be generally, from what I hear people talk about, is no fat, all vegetables, lean protein if you have a protein, no sugar, no carbohydrates, and so it's determining these foods are good and I can have those, and these foods are bad and I can't have those. And when we set up good versus bad, then we're setting ourselves up for a diet. And when we're on a diet, we're going to binge. So what I want to talk to you in terms of that is like what happens when we're on, why are diets bad, right? Okay, let's go there. Why are diets bad? Because what happens is if you think of a circle, this is kind of the best way I have to describe it. A circle, at the top of the circle is dieting and restricting. And we diet and restrict. This is how we know to deal with our body, to deal with weight issues, is to diet, restrict, right? And so if that's at the top of the circle, you move around the circle, and down here, we end up binging. It happens at a certain point in time. If you restrict and restrict and restrict, you're going to binge and you're going to feel out of control. And it won't be necessarily a day, a week, it could be a year. And I've had that where people talk to me about dieting for a long period of time, and then they diet, right, the top of the circle, and they move down to binging. And it's because the restriction makes us want the food. It makes us want it, and then we're going to binge. And then what happens is after we binge, we feel bad. We move around the circle to like at the, quarter till time, if you make it a clock kind of circle. And what happens is then at that point, we are in shame and guilt. I feel bad about myself. I can't believe I did that. I shouldn't do that. I'm gaining weight. I don't like the weight. And so what we do is after that, we come back to the top of the circle because the only thing we know how to do is to diet and restrict and stop eating. We have our good foods, which are all we're going to eat. We focus on food all the time. We have deprivation because that's the only way we know how to deal with it is restrict. And then we go through that cycle again and again and again. And that's why diets don't work. Okay? I know this is a lot of information, and I want you to just consider which part of this information kind of fits for you and kind of feels like it's kind of matching for you. And just think about that. And I encourage you to do some things like do a little journaling. I wrote down some ideas, um, and I journal about what is dieting to me. What is dieting to me? And as you become to know that, you can see whether the way that you're eating is dieting. Is the way that you're eating a diet? And look at that, because of all the things I've talked about, we're what I'm telling you is that when we go into diet, we're going to binge at a certain point in time, we're going to feel shame, and we're going to then diet again. And we're going to go around and around. And that's why our weight goes up and down and up and down. And we really dislike ourselves. The other thing I want you to think about is, are you focusing a lot on your weight and your size? And what is that to you? Are you getting on the scale every day? Are you wanting to know whether that number has gone down? Because what I know about being on the scale personally about being on the scale is it's never low enough. I could lose a pound and that's not enough. I could lose a quarter pound and that's definitely not enough. If I stayed the same, that's horrible. If I increase, that's horrible. And so it never felt like enough. I never felt good enough, and I never felt that I was at the right weight. And so I want to present over these 3 days is the idea of eating intuitively. And part of where we start with eating intuitively is we have to get clear on our dieting mindset. Each of us have to get clear. And for me, I still find times where the dieting mindset will come in my brain, and I'll kind of get taken over by this idea of eating in a certain way, and I'll think, wait, Kim, that's dieting, that's restricting. Wait, what's going on? And I'll have a little talk to myself and go, Kim, what's up? Because what I know is that eating intuitively is really counterculture. It's radical. It's radical. People don't talk about this. But when we eat intuitively, we get back in touch with our body. And we get in touch with what our body needs, and really ditch that diet so we have food freedom. So these are some things I want you to think about, and really having that journaling about what is dieting for me, and really get clear on that for you. Over the next 2 days, tomorrow we're going to talk about emotional eating. That is a huge component of overeating. Yes, we all eat for emotional reasons. It's just how often do you eat for emotional reasons, and how long does it go on for, and how do you feel about it? And we're going to talk about that in terms of emotions and how that really affects eating. And then on Thursday, we're going to talk about one of my favorite components that helps you move out of overeating and dieting into intuitive eating. And we're going to talk about it because I want you to go away. I never want you to leave, or I don't plan to have you leave feeling upset, but more just kind of going, that's interesting. And I want you to have tools that you have something to do and a different way of looking at it. So today is really looking at dieting differently and thinking about that. We're going to talk tomorrow. I have really having 3 days for a half hour each day is not going to be enough to totally take all this away. It's a great start on the right path, but you need more help. You need more ideas. You need more kind of ways of looking at food differently than just over a couple of days for a half hour. And so I'll be talking tomorrow about a program you might want to join, if not now, then later, but that you might want to join in terms of really looking at that, at how to eat intuitively and how to have that freedom with food, because that's what I'm all about, is giving you freedom with food and helping you um, get on track with where you want to be. It's, to me, it's really a lifelong process, but it certainly feels better than that restriction and feeling horrible about myself, which I know intimately how that feels. And I also know how it feels to have peace with food and to have freedom with food. Okay, so I encourage you, tomorrow is come live. We'll be here at 12 o'clock. I was a little late today because Facebook was, like I said, it's different. And so I'll be on at 12 o'clock on Wednesday, 12 o'clock Pacific. Feel free to join us live. I actually didn't engage in having comments. So tomorrow, please feel free to give me comments. Also, email me some comments on what you think, what your takeaways are, because I would love to know. And actually, leave them, if you watch this video later, leave comments below. I'd love to hear what you think and what's coming up for you, because this is powerful stuff. And like I said, it's really radical. It's really a different way of thinking about food and thinking about your body, and and thinking about whether dieting really works, and having that kind of talk with yourself about, well, what's really true about dieting, and looking at that. So if you're seeing this on the replay, thank you for joining. Those of you who came live, thank you for coming live. And I will see you tomorrow, 12 o'clock Pacific. And please let me know your takeaways. I would love to hear what you think, and what this idea of the dieting mindset and ditching the diet, what you think about that. I would love to hear from you. So I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a great rest of the day. Bye, guys.
Thank you for joining us on the Feed Your Soul with Kim podcast. Please be sure to subscribe to this podcast and review it, and let us know what you think. Thank you for joining us.